Hello and welcome back to another episode of Notion Bonsai. In this video today, I'm actually not in my garden. As you can see, it's a travel vlog, a bonsai vlog. So I'm gonna come away from this type of shot and switch to more of this kind of shot. So this morning I traveled from Belfast City to Gatwick Airport here in London. That's where we are right now. We're in the outskirts of London in a place called Surrey, Lingfield. And here on this very street here is Herons Bonsai Nursery. I've actually been here before last year whenever I created a documentary about bonsai.
The beauty or the value of a particular tree is reflected in the price. Why does a bonsai command so much money? 20, 30,000 is not uncommon and more.
I'll leave a link to that in the description if you want to check it out. Whilst I was filming the documentary on my first visit to Herons, I filmed an interview with Peter where he introduced himself and talked a little bit about his life. But it couldn't make it into the final cut of my documentary because the documentary had to be quite short. So here in this video, I'm going to share with you that interview.
Well, I'm Peter Chan and I'm known as Mr. Bonsai in the UK, and I've been doing bonsai since 1967, first as a hobby and then as a business from about 1986. So I may not look it, but I'm 81 years of age and this is my third career. I'm an immigrant of Chinese ethnicity, but my grandfather went to India, of all places, in the days of the British Empire to start a business. So he was in the carpentry business, growing teak trees and making furniture. And my father was an electrical engineer. He went from India to Milwaukee to study engineering. But unfortunately, my father died when I was about 6 years old. And I followed father's footsteps. And I too trained as an electrical engineer from one of the top engineering universities in India. And I came here in 1963 to work as an engineer. So the first 10.5 years I worked in the electricity industry, designing power stations, looking after the distribution systems in big cities like London and the south of England, different places. And from there I went on to the Department of Energy as an energy policy advisor. So in the mid-70s I was working on North Sea oil and gas projects, and then electricity, coal, nuclear, and all sorts of other jobs related to a government department that looks after energy. But it was while doing that job that, for various reasons, I don't want to go into that, I decided that I should quit my 9-to-5 job and do something I really enjoy. And of course, what I enjoyed most was doing bonsai. So I literally chucked everything up, and with a young family, my children were only like 10 and 12, I gave all that up and started a very precarious business on this disused site. Of course, now it all looks modern, but when I bought it, it was a derelict small holding with greenhouses which were about 40-50 years old from before the war. And then in the big storm of 1987, everything collapsed and we started again. But despite that, by sheer hard work, I've developed the nursery to what it is today. And I enjoy doing my work, and this is what gives me great pleasure. And I fill a very narrow niche in the horticultural market, growing and selling bonsai. But what is most significant in my life is that I enjoy what I do. So this is the story of my life.
This is the entrance whenever you arrive at Herons Bonsai Nursery. There's a sign as you come in, welcoming you. Now, although they're closed here today, I just had a chat with Peter and he said it's okay for me to come in and film around the nursery. But just immediately as you come in, you see bonsai trees and they're just really spectacular looking. Look at this one, big maple. And as it's autumn right now, well, early autumn, look at the autumn color that's coming on this beautiful maple here. See right from here, the whole way up the trunk. Look at this big maple. It's got a twin trunk. The autumn colors are just coming in. This is a big juniper here, but it's got the needle foliage. The juniper squamata. Look at the age on the trunk. This section of the nursery is all the indoor trees. Ficus would probably be my favourite indoor species to work on, as they're a lot more tolerant to overwatering and underwatering. Get all the aerial roots coming down into the soil. This is the tiger bark ficus. And then you have all the Chinese elms down here. Wow, look at these pots. Look at the detail in this one. I've never seen so many bonsai pots in one place. So this area with the shade netting has a bunch of azaleas. To get something like this, the tree would need to be grown in the ground for years and years. Check out this one. Look at the taper on that. Look at that nibari. Just looks like the roots are gripping the soil, the pot. These are some dawn redwoods. There's just so much to show. Like, look at all this over here. This is the Herons Centre, which was opened by Lord Harris of Peckham on 8th of October 2011. Like a Japanese garden over this way, which I'll show you in a moment. But just look at that maple there. Just imagine the air layerings you could take off this. Over here is the famous Three Pines. What is this? The rooms in this place are really cozy. Back from Herons, gonna be going there again tomorrow morning for a workshop with Peter Chan. This is Alcova serrata?
Yeah, that's Alcova as well. See how different the colors are?
Yeah.
That is a 50-year-old tree. In fact, it could be more. I imported it maybe in 1995 or so. If you want a turntable, there are several turntables.
So we finished the workshop with Peter there, and now we're just taking the time to explore around the nursery and have a look at all of the trees. Where are you from?
Belgium. Just finished Peter's workshop as well.
What do you think?
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. It's very. I watched a lot of videos in this from this place. So I see it in real life. You see the trees that you see on the internet, but it's way more impressive when you see it in real life.
Yeah.
I think even when at home I take pictures of my trees to see the progress.
Yeah.
Every time I take a picture, I think in real life it looks way better and stuff, and you can really see it here as well.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Yes.
How did you get started in bonsai?
Well, I started growing a little oak tree, but it wasn't supposed to be a bonsai, but I grew it in a pot. So I looked up stuff about growing bonsai.
Yeah.
Or growing a tree actually. But the most of the stuff you find on growing trees in pots is all bonsai based, and then I got dragged more into the aesthetic of bonsai, and that's how it went.
Great. Whilst I was at Herons, I got a few things. I got this bag here which is full of seeds, because I've tried to get seeds for this pine for a very long time and they're really hard to get. This is Japanese white pine, also known as Pinus parviflora. It is probably my favorite of all pines, but in this pine cone here, the seeds are inside in the little compartment, so if I leave this to dry out a little more, the pine cone will open and the seeds will be a lot easily accessed. This is a bunch of crab apples, so it's basically little tiny apples. So crab apples are a great species to use because it grows these little tiny apples on it, and they look very much like the bigger apples that you would see on larger trees. They've even got that red and yellow texture on them. So inside these apples is the seeds for them. And they're edible also, so I guess you could make crab apple jam and have little tiny jars of bonsai jam. I do know crab apples are quite bitter in taste. I'm gonna eat this one. I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna go wash it first. Alright, there it is, nice and washed. This is my first time tasting a crab apple. Oh my goodness, that's really tart. Does definitely taste like an apple though. And then inside you can see these little seeds. And the final seed that I collected at Herons today were these little tiny Acer parmatum maple seeds. And now moving on to the items that I purchased. First one here is a little block. On it, it's just called a universal cleaner. And if I open this, it's got a slightly coarse texture to it, but this is just for rubbing on the bonsai tool to remove any sap that may be built up on it. Not to be confused with a sharpening stone, that's different again, that's for sharpening the tool. One of these things will not sharpen your tools. The next item is this box right here. This is just some cut putty. For any big cuts that you make on trees, we use this stuff. This next item is a tool. On one end, it's got this nice shape for digging into the sides of pots to get out trees that are stuck. And on the other end, it's a pair of tweezers. Not a necessary, but quite a useful tool when it comes to bonsai. And because these are made of stainless steel, it's not gonna bend. I have a pair of tweezers that I use quite frequently, and from picking things up and sometimes bending and pulling things off branches, the end of the tweezers tends to bend outwards because it's not that strong of a metal. And these, I can't even bend these with my hands, so they're gonna be great. And the final item that I purchased is this book, Bonsai Masterclass, the definitive chapter by Peter Chan. And earlier today, Peter took the time to give it a sign. I've been reading through this book since I got back from the nursery, and there's a lot of really great advice in this for someone who's just starting off in bonsai and even up to advanced, and it really covers a lot of the aspects of bonsai, from like growing from seeds to cuttings, air layerings, and then really goes into specific species, what kind of seeds you can stratify and stuff like that. I'm not going to give it all away, but I do think it's great. It's just coming into that time of day now when the sun's setting, golden hour. So before I left Herons Bonsai Nursery earlier this evening, I was talking to Peter and I'm going to help him film a video in the nursery today at 7:30. The nursery's way back that way and I took a walk way up this road just to sort of explore the area. Before we do some filming, we're going to go out for some food. Peter's just grabbing the car and
red section, and in the section you'll
We had some Indian food last night and oh my goodness, I don't think I've ever tasted Indian food so good in my life. Just so much flavour, and you could tell that all of the ingredients were super fresh. Massive thank you to Peter for taking me to that Indian place. And we didn't get round to filming the video yesterday because we ended up being at the restaurant so late. So I've agreed to go and film it this morning at 9:30 and it is currently 9:20, so I've got 10 minutes to get to Herons Bonsai, which actually isn't so bad because it's like a 1-minute walk from here. This particular tree is over 500 years old. Wow, check out that maple. This is a Japanese maple, about 80 years old. So this is the main workshop of Herons. This is the desk in which most of the trees are styled at. It's always really good to work with a white background so you can see the silhouette of the tree.
Yeah, perfect.
There's no one there.
So many miniatures. But I still have to take a decision. I can't dither forever. So that is one option.
This one branch is thicker.
Which?
This one is thicker than the squamata I have.
Is it?
This is the tree Peter's working on. It's a great big squamata juniper. It's about 40 years old right now. It's been in this pot for such a long time. I'm just collecting some elm seeds from this great big elm outdoors here on the nursery. I'm just gonna flip the camera around. You see here, this is the elm leaf here. And on the tree, there's thousands and thousands of these tiny little seeds, as you can see here. These is actually the growing fields here at Herons. You can see some maples here that are already placed into big pots just to grow them strong. And if I go through this way, you can see there's just lots and lots of maples here that are ready to become great bonsai. So maybe this maple that's this tall would be cut to here as a stump and allowed to grow branches in the future. And all this isn't in vain. This is just to get the tree the thickness that it is now. There's great big apple trees. It's almost like an orchard here. So all these are the growing fields over here. So when I said earlier in the vlog that all the maples are manufactured and grown from nothing here, from cuttings and seeds, this is all of them in development. Look at the beautiful leaves on these maples. And this is a great big tree that's planted in the ground. Look at these little helicopters that float off the tree when they fall. So that's the house we were standing at yesterday. And there's the 3 pines. These pines like this take a lot of work because every year the candles need to be pruned in order to keep the tree from growing out of control. Got a plane up there. Behind me there's more maples. Check this out. Seeds everywhere. Did some research online to see if I can take a tree home much like this in my bag. This is a tree that I worked on yesterday at the workshop. I'm gonna try it. There's nothing online that says that you can't take a tree like this. And they said if you take a tree and it's not in the bag, it will count as an extra part, like an extra bag. I put it in this bag like this and rearrange the branches when I get back home. How are you today?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Past security and the bonsai trees are in this bag, so we made it through. And turns out trees are allowed. There is one thing that they stopped me about, which was the cut paste, and when you opened it, it looked like a block of drugs. So they had to test it and swab it and make sure that it wasn't a block of drugs, but they realized then it was cut paste because on the box it's all Japanese calligraphy and letters, so you wouldn't even know what is inside it. So I had to explain what cut paste was to the guy that's like behind the counter, and it's really loud, so he's really struggling to hear. It was just a crazy experience, but really surreal experience. And there you guys have it. That was my trip to Herons Bonsai Nursery. Before I end this video, I just want to say a massive thank you to, first of all, Peter Chan and all of the staff at Herons Bonsai Nursery for their very kind welcome and amazing hospitality. I have now placed the trees that I got from Herons into some pots, and they'll stay in this until next spring. So this is the little dwarf spruce, or picea. And this one is the little juniper that we worked on. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of this video as a bonsai vlog, and leave a like if you enjoyed it. And on that, thank you so very much for watching.